Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. Excellency to Mr. Ahmad Munir and Mr. Faurizhi as my examiner, and also special thanks to my supervisor, Mr. Sueb. Before I'm starting my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jibriil Abdillah, and today I will present my research proposal with the title of EFL Students Learning Motivation toward the implementation of blended learning during limited in-person EFL classroom in Indonesia. So without further ado, I will start my presentation. First one is the research background. From the background, I have two. The first one is that according to the Minister of Education and Culture, Minister of Health, Minister of Religions, and Ministry of Internal Affairs, through Foreign Minister Joint Decision number 4 KP 2020, all schools in Indonesia can be open for the limited face-to-face learning in July, with the teachers' requirement of health protocol and vaccination program. The sudden switch of learning method can affect students' learning motivation. Meanwhile, it also can bring challenges to teachers due to the new approach that must be implemented and adapted to the new learning environment. From the previous study, without a question, implementing blended learning has aided institutions in dealing with issues that arise as a result of an apparent learning system. Nevertheless, despite the blended learning brings many advantages in students' learning motivation, it still contains some disadvantages due to the lack of understanding between teachers and students with the online platform that is used. According to Manurung et al. In 2020, students that get integrated learning receive a greater yield. In addition, motivation is important in education since learners can absorb the knowledge provided by educators if they are motivated to understand it. It is by Aristika et al. In 2020. So those are the reasons why this research is worth undertaking. So this next slide is about research gaps and question. From the research gaps, previous studies are mainly only focused on higher education level. So there are still few kinds of research on secondary school EFL students' learning motivation towards implementation of blended learning during limited face-to-face class in Indonesia. And then this paper will further discuss on secondary school EFL students' learning motivation toward blended learning during the limited face-to-face class in Indonesia. For the research question, I have two research questions. The first one is, how is the implementation of blended learning in secondary school? And how is the student's motivation while learning English through blended learning? So those are the research gaps and research questions. The next one is about the key terms and significance. In the definition of key terms, I have three terms. The first one is blended learning. So blended learning is a type of education that blends traditional place-based classroom method with online educational material and chance for online participation. It necessitates both the teachers and students' physical presence and some students' control over time, place, path, and pace. The next one is learning motivation. Learning motivation is related to the learner's motivation in the intrinsic and extrinsic aspects, depending on whether students are engaged in the course material or receive a grade or credit. The third one is secondary level student. So the secondary level students is students in the year of 7 until 9, which are usually between 12 years old until 15 years old. The significance of this study is that this research will be helpful to students, teachers, researchers, and policymakers. By policymakers, I mean school and government. And also this research hopefully will be useful for other researchers. The next one, this study will give educators insight into EFL secondary school students' learning motivation in blended learning throughout the new normal period. The next slide is about the literature review. So the first one is that blended learning is a concept where the learning and teaching activity or the transferring knowledge is done in class and online. In other words, the blended learning is the mix by the traditional face-to-face learning in classroom and utilizing the technology in order to get the best outcome and avoid the boredom of technology. The next one, there is much argument regarding the benefit of blended learning, including improved critical thinking and knowledge transformation, faster learning, effective learning environment, educator and student flexibility, customization, increased students' motivation, and the development of autonomy and self-directed learning. Those claims are from Zhou et al. In 2016, Pachan et al. In 2016, and Wang et al. In 2021. The next one, learning motivation is as the effort and desire to learn the language and positive attitudes for learning the language, which comprise cognitive, emotional, and behavioral component. These claims are from Nafikin et al. In 2021. The next one, from Koff and Mullis in 2011, said that learning motivation is defined as students' intention or desire to engage in and make efforts in learning, as measured by the student choice of specific learning activities and their action in those activities. The next one, from Oletik in 2006, mentioned that intrinsic motivation is a desire to do something from within. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation is a type of motivation produced by incentive or punishment based on tasks accomplished or failures. The last one is the methodology. This research will use qualitative methodology as the research design with two phases, which are observation and questionnaire. The next one, for the research subject and setting, the research will undertake in State Junior High School 2 of Sidoarjo, which the participants are junior high school students, grade 7. For the research instrument will be two. The first one is field notes and questionnaire. For the data analysis, I'm adapting from Swenson and Holton, which are familiarizing, coding, and generating meaning. So the data first will be transcribed by organizing the data. After that, the data will be read, coded, and categorized based on the same answers. And after all stages have done, the researchers will interpret the data by explaining and describing the data quoted. The researchers will further explain in detail so that it can answer the research question. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.